This is IndieWatch. We look at past, present, and future indie titles to see whether or not they're worth your time, and more importantly, whether or not they're worth my time. Of course, there are as many indie games as there are stars in the sky, so let's shoot for the stars, shall we? If you like my content, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and join my Discord server in the description below. Unbeatable White Label is a rhythm game with attitude, and a kick-ass soundtrack to boot too. It's actually a side story to an upcoming rhythm adventure game called Unbeatable. But what's all this funny business about a rhythm adventure game? Well, I'll tell you. Basically, it's a rhythm game with 2 buttons to start. The direction it comes from doesn't really matter, and there's multiple note types to hit too, so be diligent. The game has multiple difficulty options per song, and it has an assist mode, which I haven't really tested out yet. So yeah, the base rhythm game is pretty fun. Of course, that kind of sells only half the game. The other half of the game is basically an RPG overworld. You talk to NPCs, play minigames, etc, etc, and you pick dialogue options too. There's probably going to be a lot more of this part of the game when the full game comes out, because there isn't a whole lot of it right now. So what's this story anyways? Basically, music's illegal, and you do crimes. Saving the world with music? Possibly. I haven't played the full game yet. That said, White Label doesn't have a whole lot of story, but you get a bit of lore with every song that you play. Before you play a song, you get a little cutscene, like this little lore piece here. You learn a little more about your main character's childhood, and you learn why a lead singer for a garage band basically grew up hating music. It's an interesting insight, and it's kind of relatable to me, being that I have a musical background. There's plenty of other lore pieces too that I haven't really discussed yet. If you want to learn more about them, you should just play White Label. White Label's totally free on Steam, so you've got no excuse not to try it. I gotta say, the visual style, impeccable. It's anime, but not generic anime. It gives off a very Jet Set Radio meets Kill la Kill vibe. It almost reminds me of Kill la Kill, honestly. Must be the trailer cinematics. Moving on, another thing I gotta talk about is the visual flair, because wow, this visual flair oozes style. But one has to wonder if this is safe for epileptic people. I'm sure the devs get a lot of complaints about this, so I'm not gonna harp on it too much. It's just something that you should know about. But like, ultimately it's up to you. I'm not a doctor or anything. Now more over to the topic of White Label, because White Label is actually labeled as its own game despite being basically a demo. And that's because White Label's actually updated. As per their own Kickstarter goals, apparently, White Label will be updated and become its own standalone narrative experience. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking back into White Label every now and then. As for the main game itself, Unbeatable, I don't really know when it comes out, nor have the devs said when it'll come out, but the framework's there. It's a very solid rhythm game, backed by its own soundtrack. So yeah, maybe Unbeatable may not come out anytime soon, but you know what? White Label will tide you over for a bit, with additional content coming soon. If you're interested in playing Unbeatable, the actual game itself, when it comes out, you can actually back their Slacker Backer program. Links in the description below. Now it's time to talk about the real star of the show, the 100% original soundtrack. The game's music is very garage rock, and honestly it's the kind of rock I enjoy a lot. That said, every song that's currently in White Label is very distinct from one another. The soundtrack can actually be enjoyed without the game itself, honestly. It's one of the rare few original soundtracks for rhythm games that can be enjoyed basically without needing to play the game at all. So yeah, check out the soundtrack on YouTube, or SoundCloud, or better yet, check out the game yourself. If you're interested in the soundtrack, you can actually buy the soundtrack on Steam, Bandcamp, or itch.io for $6. In fact, if you purchase the Ukraine bundle on itch.io, you might already own the soundtrack too. I was really teetering on buying the demo tapes from Bandcamp, but it turns out I already owned it on itch.io. Imagine my surprise. You can also download the soundtrack as an MP3 album or a FLAC album. You audiophiles, I know exactly what format y'all are gonna pick. If you're a rhythm game junkie, you owe it to yourself to check this game out. If you're not really into rhythm games, but you like music in general, definitely check this game out too. And like I said earlier, it's got an assist mode in case you're not particularly good at these sort of games. I'm definitely looking forward to the full Unbeatable game when it comes out. I don't know how long it'll be until then, but by the time the full game comes out, we'll probably make a follow-up video. Till then, I'll see you guys next time.